Namaste, welcome back to the Pragna channel, and you are watching AWS Data Analytics Projects or AWS Cloud Projects for Beginners. If this is your first video and if you are a beginner, I would recommend you to go and watch the other playlist that we have, not other, but one more playlist we have, which is AWS Cloud Quest, because this is like season 3. I have season 1 and 2, which are 24 more projects that we did, but they are not part of this playlist. Instead, they are part of other playlist, which is AWS Cloud Quest. Go watch from the first project if you are completely new to AWS, just because this is considered, this is 25th or 26th project, right? So if you jump immediately into 26th project, you might not grab all the knowledge or skills or tools that we use in this project. So I would recommend you to go watch from project 1 if you are completely new, or if you are looking towards some advanced projects, then you can continue watching this. So in this project, what are we going to do? Okay, so let's go ahead and click our mobile, and we are going to do a project related to data lakes. Now let's go. Okay, here we are. And if this is your first video or second video, and if your goal is to learn about AWS services and want to know how these services are used in real-time projects, first I would recommend you to go watch the AWS tutorials for beginners videos. They are very short videos, max you will have a particular video, maybe 5 minutes, that's it. So we have videos for several topics. I would recommend you to go watch that. That will give you theoretical knowledge on different services. And then we have, as I mentioned, AWS Cloud Quest playlist. In that we have 24 projects starting from Cloud Practitioner, then Solution Architect. So that's how your path should be. You need to watch the 12 projects that are provided in that playlist as Cloud Practitioner. Those are beginner ones. And then there are other more 12 projects in the Solutions Architect path, and then come here. If you follow this, trust me, you are going to gain a lot of knowledge. By the time you finish all these projects, watching, doing, some of them you can do. Cloud Practitioner 12 projects you can do, which is free. Cloud Quest is free for Cloud Practitioner role, not for the other. I mentioned this in other videos as well. So once you finish watching the tutorials for beginners videos and then these projects, trust me, you can just put blindly 2-3 experience on AWS technologies, because technically this is what we do in real projects. So watch it multiple times, though, because by doing it you will gain more knowledge than watching it, but you have to spend some money to do this lab. So watch it multiple times until you get used to it. All right, let's look at this this project. Okay, what is their problem? Let's see. Hello, I am the data storage administrator for the Island's premier e-commerce store. Thanks for coming. Glad to be here. Is there something I can help you with? We have noticed a high amount of customers abandoning certain products in their shopping cart on a consistent basis. This causes us to have to delete those records from our database to save storage space. The IT manager asked me to find a cost-effective storage solution to store these records. On top of that, we want to run an analysis on this data to summarize which products are being abandoned at the highest rate, so that we can offer a discount to our customers to increase sales. Would you be able to help? Absolutely. You can create a data lake in Amazon S3 as your storage solution. From there, you can create a backend application to export the abandoned records into S3. A second data processor application will read the records, aggregate them, and write the aggregated data to the data lake. For the discount, you can create a promotions application that will further aggregate and sort the data to help you identify the top products being abandoned by each customer. Wow, there is a lot to unpack there. First, what is a data lake and how does it work on Amazon S3? Sorry, I got excited. A data lake is a centralized repository that you can use to store all your structured and unstructured data at any scale. You can store your data as is and run different types of analytics on it to guide better decisions. Amazon S3 is optimal for data lake because of its virtually unlimited scalability and high durability. S3 also integrates with AWS Lambda. You can process event notifications from S3 through Lambda, such as when an object is created or deleted from a bucket. That's interesting. So our applications can be invoked through these event notifications? Exactly. You can create an event notification on an S3 bucket to invoke a Lambda function whenever an object is created in the bucket. Alternatively, you can send events to Amazon Event Bridge whenever certain events happen in your bucket. Event Bridge can then invoke your Lambda function. I like it. I will get my team to create the required application so we can get started. With your help, we can build our first data lake. Can you show me the steps involved in building this solution? Sure, definitely. So what are the learning objectives? So once we finish doing this project, what are we going to learn? That is important. So we are going to use S3 as the data lake storage layer. Then we will configure an event notification to invoke a Lambda function. Then we will configure Amazon Event Bridge to invoke a Lambda function. Okay, that is nice. And what are the rewards that we are going to get? Usual plus 10 Lambda plus 10 S3. All right, let's accept this. Excellent, let's get started. All right, now we know this is going to take us to our lab. And as you can see, this is our lab section. And as usual, we'll have the video concepts here. I will click here. Go ahead and watch them. As I mentioned earlier, these I won't play the videos here. Instead, they are part of another playlist, which is called AWS Tutorials for Beginners. You can find the videos with the same title. Watch them, come back, and continue watching this video. Okay, guess what? I went till step 40 and then realized that I had my recording paused. So now I had to come back to step 1 and then redo all the 40 steps. That's okay. I will do it again for you guys because it was a mistake done by me. So I have to close these things. Okay, let's go here. Let's go delete this. Sometimes it is frustrating, you know. I almost recorded about 40 minutes of this 40 minutes and then now I don't have delete permissions. Awesome, that's fine, then we'll leave. Okay, so let's go back and let's do this from the beginning. So let's go here. So we are going to go to S3. We already know what S3 is, so I'm not going to explain. You can pause and read through this. It is just explaining what this does. So we are going to create a bucket. Again, we are going to create a raw bucket first. Okay, and read through the raw zone, what it means and etc. Pause it and read it. And then we are going to create bucket with SSE S3 server side encryption, the default encryption. You don't have to provide any keys, so that we are going to create. And we are going to create another bucket to store the aggregated data, which we are going to call consumed bucket. Okay, so now you will have raw bucket and consume bucket. I think I cannot create with the same name, so I went ahead and created it with these names. So I have two buckets, and initially both buckets should be empty. And then we are going to go click the properties, and then we are going to enable the events, right? Whenever we want, whenever a file is actually created or added to the bucket, we want it to do something else. So those are called events. So we are going to create an event and we'll name it processor event, and we are only going to choose put. There are several event types on S3, but we only care about put when a file is put. What do you want to do? Again, you need to select a destination. In our case, it is a Lambda function, and that Lambda function is data processor. So what we are saying is, when we put a file in raw bucket, we want it to trigger this Lambda function. Okay, and once you create it, again at the same time we want to also enable the event bridge. Unlike the event notification, event bridge, we don't need to select events. It will be for all events. Either you turn it off or off. That's how it works. So we will go ahead and turn it on. Okay, so once you do that, we are going to check out the Lambda function, which is the data generator. As the name suggests, it generates random data. They are going to use, this fake method or package, Python package. Faker, it's a Python package that generates random data. And what this does is it will generate the data and it puts the file in the raw bucket. Okay, and in order to do that, actually the bucket name is created as an environment variable. Okay, read what an environment variable is. But when will you create environment variables? Well, if you hard code the bucket in the code, when you move from dev to QA and QA to prod, your buckets change. So you don't want to change your code and replace the QA bucket and prod bucket. Instead, you will create environment variables. So what are the probable scenarios you might be? Whenever you think a certain value changes between dev, QA and prod, then you will consider them to create as a variables, environment variables. So when you create it like that, you don't have to change anything when this code goes to QA. Whatever values you pass, you can pass it to the Lambda. Okay, then we will edit and change that. And the value we are going to give is raw bucket. That's it. Once you create that, we are going to test this. To test a Lambda, what do we need? We need a test event. It needs sometimes, if the function needs input data, this is the place where you will pass it. But this particular Lambda, it won't take any input. So you can remove this and pass an empty one. That's fine. Then you will click on test. And then the data will be generated like this. And it will also write the file to our raw bucket S3, which is what they are showing us here. And it will go and put it. You can download it using that. And now there is the data processor. So we put the file in that, but this is the one that aggregates the data. So they are showing us by going to code. They're talking about pandas. That's what they used. So basically what this Lambda function does is it will read or download the file from the raw bucket into temp folder, and then it is going to use pandas to group by or do whatever aggregation it needs to do. After that, it is going to put that in that temp file, aggregated data. Then it will upload it to the consume bucket. That's all this Lambda does. But along with that, what it does is, if you see the trigger here, right, which is S3, which means this Lambda is triggered using this particular S3 event. You remember we created an event and selected this as the destination, right? That's what created this one. And again, it has two environment variables which will change. Our input bucket is the raw bucket, output bucket is the consume bucket. Once we did that, we will go again to generator. Okay, previously when we ran, it just created the file, but it didn't trigger the data processor. You might be thinking it didn't trigger it, but it did trigger it. But since we didn't change the environment variable of input bucket, output bucket, it didn't do anything. Now we change that. So now when we test it, it should go ahead and create another file in raw bucket and also trigger the aggregate process, and it should put a file in the consume bucket as well, which they are showing right here, which you can see here. So this is till here I came and I realized that I paused my recording, but no worries, I will show everything again. So creating the bucket, create bucket, give the name, you need to choose the region. In this exercise, we are not changing anything, click create. That's how I created these two buckets. Once we are here, we need to enable the notifications. So we'll go to properties, we'll scroll down, you will have the notifications. So you will click on create event notifications, give the event name, don't give anything, and we are only going to use put. We have several events on S3 bucket, but that's all we care about. Then we will choose Lambda, choose from your Lambda, then we'll go and choose our data processor, save changes, then it will create the event. And similarly, you can enable event bridge from here, click event bridge, click on save changes, then we are good. Now let's go to the functions, Lambda functions. The data generator, which is what generates the data. Okay, if I click on here, Lambda handler is the function that gets triggered when you run the Lambda, and whatever is under it gets triggered. Event is the input event we are sending, or the input parameters we are sending. Context, you can access it. This will have things like AWS ID, etc. But in this we are not using it. But what is this one triggering? First, it is running the function called generate data, which is this one, and this is using the faker module and creating 5 columns with some random data and writing it to temp directory. Then you are using the upload file function, and what this function does, all it does is it will use the S3 Boto S3 client, and it will upload the file to your bucket with the object name you want. But we need to test this. In order to test this, you are actually going to create test events. You can click create test event, give whatever name you want, dummy2, because I already created one. Since this doesn't require any input, you can remove and pass an empty one. That's fine. That's totally fine. And when you click test, it will run it. It will generate some random data. And at the same time, it will also upload the file to S3. How do I know if it is uploaded or not? I can go back to my bucket here, open this, and if I refresh this, you can see this is the actual current time. I can confirm you that it just created it. Okay, and since I already told you I ran this already, you will see this one file as well, but you can see it already created it. The reason is I already went ahead and modified the buckets for the other Lambda function as well. Okay, let's go to the other function, which is the processor. So if you see, this gets triggered automatically by the S3 event, which is what you can see here. As I showed you earlier, it will download the file, then it will process it, then will upload it. That's all it does. And if we go to vary environment variables, forgot to tell you. So I already changed this. That's why that file got successfully created in here. You can edit it, add key and values, as many as you want. Okay, I hope so far you are with me on this. I might have went a little bit quicker, faster than the last time, but basically that's all I did. So if I go back here now, let's go to event bridge. Then click create a role, and we are going to name it promotion app, and then the role with an event pattern. Go ahead and read that, and then you can click next. And here what is that event pattern? It is a AWS service, and the service here is S3, and it is a S3 event notification. It is going to create as this pattern automatically there. And here we are selecting use pattern from. Before going further, let's see promotion app. Let me remember that. So let's go back to, do we do it from here? Okay, event bridge, create a rule. Oops, not that one, this one. Promotion app. This is default, and we are going to rule with an event pattern, not a schedule. Okay, schedule in the sense you want it to run at a particular time, particular day, particular year, month, etc., which is not what we want. We want it to be triggered when there is an event. And is it AWS event? Yes, it is. And what is it? S3 object, and it is actually everything, right? Let's see, why is it all events? Enter my own. This looks like it changed, but what I am trying to see is S3. There are so many S3 services. Okay, S3 we have so many. I think it is created. I don't know. It should not be like this. It should be not like this. Maybe it changed. Okay, right. If you see, we don't see this at all, right? rule with an event pattern. Yes, that's what we selected. Then it's saying creation method use pattern from, which we don't have, and even this we don't have it anymore. That's weird, right? Or did I do anything wrong? It says other. How about this? And is it? It's saying S3 event notification. That's weird. How can they completely? Oh, we have it here. Never mind. But why is, what is this event source? Is there event source is AWS services? Never mind. Event services is S3. Event source is AWS events. Okay, this is optional. Never mind. Use pattern services S3. Okay, S3, and this is notification. Okay, we have it there. Cool. Okay, and then we are going to select specific event, which is object created, and that is the bucket where which bucket that object is whenever is created and you wanted to do that. So we will say specific event, and we are going to select object created, and then we are going to say specific bucket, and it is going to be raw bucket, this one. I think pretty much that's it. We should be good to go. Then what do you want to do? Obviously the target is we want to create a Lambda function, and that Lambda function is promotion app. Then next, then you can add tags, then you can review the pattern, and then scroll down and create it. I think pretty much that's it. Now you have the promotion app Lambda function, and we can go ahead and review the code, and you can read the Amazon Event Bridge by pausing this video. Okay, I can review it when we go there. So let's click this next, and the target is AWS Services, and we said it's a Lambda function, and it's going to be promotion app. And next, tags, next, you can review it, S3 object created, and the bucket, and create the role, and the role is created successfully. Oh, we need to review the code, right? Forgot about it. Let's go here, promotion app, and as you have guessed, the trigger type is what triggers this Lambda function? Event bridge, event will. For the previous one, Lambda will, but for this, sorry, S3 event, for this one, event bridge event triggers it. That's why it is that. Similar, even this one is downloading, processing, uploading. I think it is the same one. Okay, cool. Now let's go back. Okay, you can look at this, review it. And we have to change these variables again. We are going to put raw bucket, consume bucket. Good. We'll go, then we'll go data generator. Now test it. It will put the file, then in the consume bucket, it will have the promotion data created as well. You can download it and view it if you want, but I think we are good. Congratulations, we are done. Okay, this one is a simple one at least, but it is showing us how these different things work hand in hand. So that being said, this is done. So let's go back to this one, and let's go to configuration, variables. Let's replace this. Okay, raw bucket 3157. Consume. Let's save it. Okay, we are done. Let's go back. So once we run this, what does this do? It will put the file in raw bucket, and then that put event is actually going to trigger the processor Lambda, and at the same time the event bridge is going to trigger the promotion app and going to put that file as well. So let's go ahead and test this. Two things are going to happen, right? So we need to see two files created in the consume bucket. Okay, successfully done. Let's go. Okay, I think here. Let's click on S3. Let's look at the timestamp. Based on the timestamps, we'll make sure if it actually created in the other one or not. So raw bucket, yes. What time? If you see 3:23. So with that same time, there should be two files in here. Yes, there are 223, 223. We got the aggregated data, which is triggered by the S3 event, the respective Lambda, and this got triggered by the event bridge event and created it. So we successfully have two files. That is the end of our practice lab. Now let's go to our DIY. Let's see if it is going to be complicated or easy. What are we going to do? We are going to create a second event bridge rule to invoke the Lambda function DIY processor. Straightforward. Update the DIY processor Lambda environment variables with the S3 bucket names created in the lab. Invoke the data generator Lambda function and verify that a new CSV file was created in the consumption zone S3 bucket. Okay, so pretty much it's straightforward, I would say. It's just we are going to create a, I think we already have this name, right? We can just give it. Just to show that this doesn't work, because I think they will go, I'm assuming they are going to check a different file. I think the DIY processor will put a different file just to make sure that this actually fails, because we didn't yet do it, right? Let's see. I don't know which bucket file it is going to check. If it checks with, yeah, you see this? That function isn't triggered. So this actually works. It's not like they just put it for the sake of it. So we are going to go and actually run that and create the rule and run it. Then I will come and do the validation, and which should work. So let's go here. I think here, create a new rule, and we can call this as DIY promotion app. Okay, let's click next. I think we scroll down and we are going to select S3, and then here we are going to select event notifications. Again the same thing, specific event, object create, but the bucket is going to be the same bucket. Okay, but the target is going to be different now, right? Because we are not going to trigger the other one. Instead we are going to trigger the DIY processor instead of the other one. So click next. Next, pretty much the same, nothing changed. That's it. Then let's go to this one again. Now if I run this, it should create 3 files in that bucket. Okay, let me go back to here. If I refresh this, what, it's still showing the promotion. Oh yeah, I know why. Do you guys know why it didn't create the other file? Can someone catch that before I show it? Yeah, we need to update the variables. That's why we need to be patient. Okay, let's go put that here, put that here. Let's change this to consume, save it. Now let's go to the generator. Now if I run this, it should definitely create 3 files. If it doesn't, then I will be really mad. Okay, still didn't create it. Okay, now it created it. It took some time, but that's fine. As you can see, we have 3. This created by DIY, this promotion. So now if I go and validate it, I think this should work. I think it is just checking if that file exists in this or not. Okay, as you can see, we successfully went ahead. They actually gave some hints, but I think we are good, right? All right, I hope you followed with me on this, and I hope you don't have any confusion. And after watching this, you should be able to successfully create event bridge events and S3 events and link them and make them trigger Lambda functions. If the solution is complete, let me know how I can get one of those promotional discounts. Thank you for your help. I have something better than a discount. Choose a reward as a token of your appreciation. Which one should we pick? I think this one. Let's go with this. It has a spaceship kind of. All right. Okay, so that finished the lab. Now let's go to our next part. The next part is we leveled up. That is good. And my builder level also increased to 15. And it's time for feedback. And I liked it, so I will give 5 stars. And it is time for you to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and hit that like, share and comment buttons. I really appreciate you doing so and all your support. Thank you very much. Go ahead, do it. Now let's go to our second step, which is zapping the drones. So let's see, what do we have here? All right, okay, it is right in front of me. Okay, Amazon S3 event notifications feature can be used to receive notifications when certain events occur in an S3 bucket. Which destination can Amazon S3 send event notification messages to? I think I remember this. We did this, and I think when I was doing it, I checked. I think it's the other two as well. And it is correct. And let's see, do I have anything? Okay, they are far away. Let's hope it is not that far. Which service does a data lake built on AWS use as its primary storage solution? We already know which is S3, which we just used. I got a RDS read replica, which is nice. That's too far. I want to go. That's not I don't want to zap yet. By default, S3 versioning is disabled on buckets and it must be explicitly enabled. Yes, that is true. It is disabled on buckets by default. Yes, nice. I got a Lambda card. Which architectural approach can be used to store all data, including structured, unstructured, in a centralized repository so that it can be categorized, cataloged, sourced and analyzed? Which is actually, this is what we just did. Obviously we won't miss it, so it's the data lake. Which AWS service can be used with S3 event notifications to write rules that take actions when an event occurs in S3 bucket? What do you guys think? As soon as you see this, to write rules is what? Event bridge. So we just did it as well. So we already know the answer for that. Which statements about the scan operation in DynamoDB are correct? This is our previous project, which means we are done with the questions for this one. So let's do this. Remember the previous project? What is scan? When you scan happens first, the filters happen after that. So consumes the same amount of read capacity when a filter expression is present. Yes, that is true, because filter is applied after scan finishes, so it still does the same thing. Scan consumes more read capacity when a filter expression. No, it doesn't. Filter expression is applied after a scan finishes. Oh, there are two. I almost selected this. So this is true as well. Okay, so we received another one. I think we are done here, because that previous one was DynamoDB, which is our previous project. As when we receive questions like that, we know that we are out of our questions, and I think that will be the end of this particular project. I hope you learned something. I hope you liked it. If so, go ahead and subscribe. And also, if you want to contribute to this channel, you can become a member, or you can give a super like, or there are different ways you can support this channel. And thank you very much. Have a nice day. See you in the next video. Peace out.